This is my 2023 BMW M8 Competition Coupe in individual Santorini Blue. It's the LCI for lifecycle improvement, BMW's mid-cycle refresh, but I will say it's the most un-LCI in the history of LCIs because the only thing they improved was the iDrive screen on the inside got a little bit larger. Thankfully, the car is gorgeous at baseline, and it didn't need much in the way of looks improvements. I've had this car now for about 2 years and 13,000 miles. I did a performance center delivery on it. I'll put a link to that video up above, and you can check that out. Highly recommend that experience. I saw this car first at an M-Track Days at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and I got to drive one on the track there, and I was just in love with this car at first sight. Never thought I'd own one, and then finally was fortunate enough to get one. Much like my X5 video, and even more so because I've owned this for 2 years, I can give a real world opinion on a long-term ownership and what it's like to have this car as a daily driver. And people will frequently ask about cars like this. Can you use a car like this as a daily driver? And short answer is absolutely. Can you get kids to and from soccer practice? Well, one kid, yes. More than one kid, no, because the back seats, as you'll see, are non-functional. As mentioned, don't expect to put a person in the back of this car. I'm a short 5'7". My head is already touching the roof, and the seat, since I drive, I sit up a little bit farther. My legs are already pretty much at the seat, and I would be scared to death to ride back here because if there was an accident, I'm not getting out of here, and there's just no space. But as a daily driver, it's just one of me in the car, and it's been amazing. I've taken it on long trips, short trips, groceries, work, etc., and it's been amazing all over the place. I get tons of compliments on the color. And I think one of the things that happens when you own a car like this, because this has been what my brain has known for the past 2 years, it becomes kind of commonplace and you take for granted just how nice of a car this is, how nice the interior is, how nice looking it is, how nice the individual blue color is. We'll take a quick look around the outside of it, starting with the profile, which I think is its best view. It is a long, sleek, swooping profile, and it's just gorgeous. I fell in love with it, love at first sight. It is a GT car, it is a large car, and you're gonna feel that going around corners, but the power this has with that twin turbo V8 with 617 horsepower is amazing. I love the aggressiveness of the front of the car with the old school double slat M grills and the old school M trapezoidal air intake down below. And similar to my X5, I swapped out the roundels front and rear for the IND black painted ones. It is a super subtle change that very few people are going to notice. I love the look of these wheels, but because of the design of them, cleaning them, especially if you get back to the barrels, takes a lot more effort. And the brake pads that come on them throw off a lot of brake dust, so you have to clean them that much more frequently. I swapped out the original brake pads for the low dust ice sweep brake pads, and they definitely put out a lot less dust onto the wheels. I love the low, wide stance to the rear of this car. Has the black M8 badging, again, the black roundel that I swapped out for, 4 large quad tailpipes. I swapped the original spoiler out for the carbon fiber spoiler, which matches the carbon fiber roof that comes standard, and has the LED taillights, which again, I really just like the look of. Automatic motorized trunk, you can open here, will come open, and the trunk is really deep. Again, going with the length of the car, a lot of space in the trunk. And then you can either close it or close it and lock it here, and it will go down on its own. Very brief look at the key fob, the old school BMW key fob, which you can use to, of course, lock and unlock and open the trunk. Santorini Blue, being a lighter blue, is really not that bad for showing dust and scratches. I've got a great Obsessed garage pressure washer set up in my garage that I've also done a video on. You can check that out. And if I do the car right, getting all the way back into the barrels of the wheels, which definitely adds some time because there's a lot of small areas to get in there, I'd say it takes me right about an hour to do the whole thing, get it dried, clean the inside, and gives you a little time to bond with your car. Let's take a listen to that exhaust sound. All right, let's go for a drive in this thing. So the interior of of the M8 is a really nice place to spend some time. The materials are high quality, and I think befitting of a car of this stature, in my case leather, carbon fiber, and Alcantara. And the controls feel nice, and in fact there still are controls, which is an improvement from some of the newer cars. The seats are comfortable. I went with the basic seats. I didn't get the carbon fiber buckets for several reasons. One, having driven in them, I don't think they are that comfortable. And if you have any kind of large thighs, there's not that much space. The bolster between the thighs is not that comfortable, and getting in and out of them is also not comfortable. And they're not cheap. So for all those reasons, I went with the basic seats, and I am super happy with them. In comfort mode, the car is a comfortable, quiet, compliant 8 Series cruiser, but you can use the programmable M1, M2 buttons to put the car into sport mode, and it becomes an entirely different beast. It brings out the M in the M8, and the dichotomy of this car is that you can choose what you want to drive that day. Do you want an 8 Series GT cruiser, or do you want an M Series sports car? The acceleration on this car, you put it in sport mode, this car handles the speed really well, and you can use this as a comfortable daily driver, and you're well insulated from the road, or you put it in sport mode and you get all that extra power, and it handles the speed so well that you will have no idea that you were going as fast as well as I may have just been going. The car does take premium fuel, and I'm getting about 22 miles a gallon out of this V8, which is, I think, really good. So iDrive 7, I know we're 2 versions ahead now, but iDrive 7 definitely has some redeeming qualities. It is programmable, and you can program things like turning off the active sound design, which I think is the dumbest thing BMW has ever come up with, where they basically pipe in fake engine noise into the car, and the noise that you're hearing is what you think people outside the car are hearing. It kind of ends up being all in your head. So I turn that off. It's one of the first things I do, and the ride becomes so much more peaceful. You can turn off some of the nannies like the seatbelt chime, so that when I'm pulling into my garage, my driveway, I take my seatbelt off, it doesn't start yelling at me. I ended up with the Harman Kardon radio because during COVID and part shortages, I wasn't able to get the Bowers and Wilkins. The Harman Kardon I don't think is befitting of a car of this stature, unless you're just not an audiophile type person, and maybe you won't care. I took the Harman Kardon and I upgraded it to the Bob sound speakers, and there's actually a video of my friend Adam on his channel installing them for me. He's done a ton of work on his cars. He has a car channel with a lot of BMW content. I'll put a link to it. You can check that out. Lots of great stuff on his channel. The dash is well laid out. I prefer the dash on the iDrive 7 over iDrive 8 and beyond, because on this you have 2 areas that you can customize for information, one in the center and one on the right. The iDrive screen, yes, it doesn't look quite as modern as the single screen that the new cars have, but it's still fine. The seats, like I mentioned, it's super comfortable. I've taken this on long rides. I've driven 8 hours back from South Carolina, and especially in comfort mode, it's super comfortable. The seats are super comfortable. There's plenty of room up here. Although this car is larger than the M4, the interior room is actually less, and I think that's because of the sloping roof and the non-existent rear seat space. So after 2 years and 13,000 miles of ownership, I am still in love with this gorgeous, sexy, powerful beast of a car. The car still totally gets the lookbacks from me as I walk away from it that my G82 M4 did not get, which is why I traded it in after only a year to get this car. And the fact that this also has the individual Santorini Blue paint makes it that much more spectacular. To borrow from another review that I saw, this car is totally M and it is totally 8. It is every bit of a comfortable GT cruiser for around town, on long trips, or just as a daily driver. But then when you want the power and the sportiness and the looks of an M, it has all that as well. And it's the perfect mesh of the two of those all into one car. And I think it is, for now and for the foreseeable future, the best looking car in BMW's lineup. On the inside, I went with the black and mid-ran seats. It was my first foray into non-all black seats, and I love the looks and the sportiness of these seats. I didn't get the carbon fiber buckets because I've driven in those, And as I've said elsewhere, I would pay to not get those because I just don't think they're comfortable, especially as a daily driver getting in and out of them. And if you have someone like, say, a wife that's going to be getting in and out of them as well, you're probably going to get a lot of complaints unless you want an excuse to get the car to yourself. It also has iDrive 7 with its buttons, which is going away. It also has programmability with things like eSys and Beamer code, which is going away. And it also has the V8 under the hood, which is absolutely going away with its amazing sound. My X5 that I have parked right there that I did a review on also has a V8, but you can check out that review. It does not sound anything like this. The sound of this, especially in sport mode, is intoxicating. I love my X5 and my M8 for both different reasons, and I probably drive them both 50-50. And the X5 is a really nice SUV, but the M8 is something special to behold. And as I mentioned at the outset, I think I take that for granted, having owned it for several years, because it almost becomes commonplace to you. As the rumor has it, these are not going to be made after around 2027. So if you can, while you can, pick one of these up because it is a really special car.